Welcome to our discussion of the Hoshanot, the meaning of Hoshanot. Just the word Hoshanot itself is kind of not so clear. People use the expression in many different ways. Hoshanot, sometimes we mean the various prayers we say as we go around the bima, the shulchan, the table, the Torah, during the 7 days of Sukkot. Sometimes we mean Hoshanot, we mean the Hoshanot we say on Hoshana Rabbah, the great Hoshana, where we say lots of Hoshana. We ask God to save us. The word Hoshana means to save. We ask God to save us many times on Hoshana Rabbah, the great day of Hoshana, where we go around 7 times. And then also you have clopping the Hoshanas. The Hoshanas are the aravos, the willows, which we sometimes clop. It's the same Yiddish. We beat them on the ground or on a vessel. And so there's that also. So we need to understand all of this during the time of Sukkot. So let's begin. The meaning and source of Hoshanot. So here you have a picture of some folks going around. You can vaguely see that somewhere in the middle there's a Torah. Someone's holding a Torah. I think vaguely see it somewhere there. There it is. There's a Torah. This gentleman's holding it. And everyone else is going around with their lulav. So that, and while they're doing that, they're saying Hoshana, God should save us. Okay. There's also clapping Hoshanas, where on the 7th day, there's a custom to take just a willow. No, it's not the willow that's in your lulav packet, but rather lulav bundle, but rather a separate willow. We'll see how many, and to bang it on the ground or on a vessel, on a piece of furniture. So that's another matter. We have to understand all these things. So we begin at the beginning. The Mishnah. The Mishnah is some of the oldest sources we have for anything. And it says as follows. The mitzvah da'arava, the willow branch, is as follows. There's a certain place south of Jerusalem, or I don't know, beneath Jerusalem. And it was called Motza. The cantor used to live somewhere around there, near one of the yeshivas there. They would go down there and they would collect lots of willows. See later, there's still a custom reminiscent of this. They would take those willows. We don't mean a willow that like in your lulav. We mean like a willow branch. Like think of a branch of a tree. And they take the whole thing and stick it next to the altar. The altar was a very high thing. You had to take a ramp to get up it. It was very tall. So we're talking about the size of a tree. And you lean them on the side of the altar. And the head of the willow would lean over on top of the altar. Very beautiful. What's it all about? We'll have to see. They would blow the shofar as part of the ceremony. Every day they would go around one time. What does that mean? I have to find out what that means. And they would say, God save us, God help us. Give us hatzlach and success. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, they would say, Ani Vaho Shiana. They would mention one of the secret names of God, Ani, and Vaho, these are secret names of God, and they would say that with that name of God, He should save us. Also, Yom Kippur is Be'ach Shavah. On the 7th day, they go around 7 times. When they leave the altar, what do they say? Beautiful altar, beautiful altar. And Rabbi Lezer said that, we don't always agree with him, but he said, to you and to the Mizbeach, to you and the Mizbeach. A little questionable. He's putting God and something else together. It's like, he's a jolly good fellow, and God's also very nice. It's together. So Rabbi Salvation was against the song, He's a Jolly Good Fellow. We only sing to God. But in any event, they used to praise the altar, because Sukkot is really about the altar. What do I mean? Sukkot is a holiday where we have so many sacrifices, more than any other holiday by far. We start off with 13 cows that are sacrificed on the first day. So it's a very big altar holiday. It's a lot about the altar. Someone pointed out that the Yom Kippur is the inner altar, and Sukkot is about the outer altar, the sacrifices that we bring. But we talk about the beauty of the altar, that even though you might say, oh, yuck, slaughtering animals, what? We say, if God says that we should have sacrifices, it's beautiful, nothing wrong. There was a Greek girl who probably had similar attitude to a lot of us today, and she said, Lucas, you're like a wolf. You just eat down all the sacrifices of the Jews, all the money of the Jews. But we have to take an approach that the altar is a beautiful thing. We have a synagogue. People put money into the synagogue. We have to say it's a beautiful thing. It's not a waste of money. Even if you have to move to one synagogue to another, it's not a waste. It's beautiful. Now, the way it's done during the week, it's done on Shabbos too. they put these branches on Shabbos too. Usually we don't handle branches on Shabbos so much, but they did it. But you don't cut them on Shabbos. You cut them before Shabbos. It's not necessary to violate Shabbos for this particular ritual. Some temple rituals you do violate Shabbos, not for this. And you put it in a golden flower pot. We're talking a huge flower pot, the size of a table, and so they shouldn't get worn out. Willows do very well in water, by the way. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka said that no, it's not the arava, it's not willows, it was palm branches, it was lulavim. And they would bang them on the side of the altar. They would wave them on the side of the altar. And it was called the day of the waving of palm branches. So we have a confusion here. What was it? Is Hoshanot the willow, or is it the lulav? So which one is it? A little bit disturbing that we don't remember the way it was. Anyway, there are three aspects here. There's Natila. To take this willow, maybe lulav. There's the idea of Zakifa putting it on the side of the altar, and then there's Hakafa going around with the willows. These are three different activities. And then all of them we say, Hoshana, God should save us. Okay. What do you do to go around? So what do you go around with? So there's a debate about it, what you go around with. Every day we had a debate about the banging. Do you bang or do you shake a willow or lulav? Also, what do you go around with? So Abaye says, wait a second. Every day you go around, and the seventh day you go around 7 times. Isn't it with the arava? He says, no, it's with the lulav. Nachman said that Rav Avua said it was an arava. So he said to him, he said it was a lulav, as an arava, but a willow, but I think it's a lulav. And Rabbi Lezer says it was a lulav. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nasan said that Rabbi Chanina said it was an arava, willow, and Rabbi Nachman said it was a willow. So, it's hard to determine what it was. It's a debate. Now, let's understand where they were going. Look at my cursor here. This is the big altar. There's a small altar here where they have the incense. But this is the big altar when you bring a sacrifice. When you bring a sacrifice, usually the person would come to over here, north of the altar. This is west. This is west. This is, if that's west. Yeah, if that's west, that's north. So the north of the altar, they would do they would put their hands on the altar, on the head of the animal to confess their sins over here. But generally, this is not an Israelite area. The Israelites and the women are welcome over here. This area is usually just for a Kohen. But if you bring a sacrifice, you can go over here to confess your sins. But to stand over here, Beina Ulam, this is the Ulam, and the Mizbeach, the altar, that's a forbidden area. Look over here. The Mishnah in Kalim talks about impurity. It says between the altar and that section, the anteroom to the sanctuary where the menorah is, and the golden altar, it's very holy. If you're even a Kohen, if he has a blemish, cannot go there. If he doesn't have the right head covering, he can't go there. So certainly an Israelite like me, I can't go there. You can't go there. So how do you go around if you can't go there? So the Ritzkei says, look, one of the Gaonim, the early rabbi, said that an Israelite is not allowed to go there. He says, no, that's just for if there's no mitzvah. But when there's a mitzvah to go around, you go in there. So he says, I don't know what you're talking about. However, he lived in early Spain. However, the Ri Migash, who's also early southern Spain, he says they didn't actually go around because you're not allowed to go there. But rather, you would stand around the Mizbeach, stand around the altar, and the Israelites would stand on one side from the north to the south, but they wouldn't go on the western side. What does it mean to go around? Go around means surrounding it, like a Kol Nidre. Do we surround the Chazan? Yeah, we surround the Chazan. But we're not going around, we're not going in circles, we're just surrounding him. So sometimes you just stand there. So what does it mean to go around 7 times? He says you go around and then you leave and then you come back, which is very strange. So there's a question as to whether Israelites were allowed to make this circle around the altar, or whether only Kohanim could go around this part, and just the Israelites would just stand around this part. So it's interesting. But today we all go around. Everybody, the Kohen, the Levi, Israel, we all go around the altar, unless there's COVID, and which is a different story. However, there seems to be a Yalkut Shimoni, which is compiled later than the previous rabbis, but is considered a collection of earlier sources. It says all of Israel, old, young, they all go, they take the lulavs and their esrog, and they go around the altar. And on the 7th day, they go around 7 times. So it's very clear from here that Israelites went around. So anyway, maybe the other rabbi would say that they didn't go around, they just stood around. But in any event, there's a debate about whether we stood around or whether we went around. Would this be one of the unusual times where a Jew got to get really close to the Holy of Holies? Again, the Holy of Holies is out here, number 31. 30 is an area where an Israelite could never go. And the question is, were we able to go to this area, Bina Ulam, Lamizbeach? Could we go to this section, or do we have to stay over here? Okay. What do we do today? Today we don't have an altar. What do we do? So Rav Sanjugon was one of the early rabbis after the Talmud who wrote a siddur. He told us what to do. He said, look, after the Haftorah, you say Tilal David, that we call that Ashrei. And you stand up there and you take your lulav. This is when you put away the Torah. You, after Ashrei, you go there and you say Hoshana. And everybody says Hoshiana. And then he says Aniva Hoshiana. And everybody says Aniva Hoshiana. So we use both languages. You put the Torah back, you say Kaddish and Daven Musaf. Every day we go around once, and the 7th day you go around 7 times. The first time you go right, and then the second time you go left, and you say different things. Anyway, this is what he did. We don't do this. And at the end, you say, you say some sort of praise relating to Sukkot, and then you say, may Jerusalem be rebuilt with joy, and let us go up to it with great joy. So that's what he did. We don't do that. We're in Nusach Sfard Shul. We say we go around immediately after the Hallel, but some shuls go around after Musaf. Nobody goes around when they put away the Torah. So this is interesting. It was separated from the lulav ceremony of the shaking of the lulav with the Hallel. He separates it. We, Nusach Sfard and the Sfardim, we connect it to we shake the lulav in Hallel, and then we go around. Interesting. What's the source of going around? So the Shari Jew, one of the early Gaonim, the rabbis after the Talmud, before Rashi and Rambam, that he writes the following Shari Jew. He says, what's the source of it? What's a hint to this idea? Going around. So he says, if you look at this verse, I put over here, the verse from the Hallel, it says, God has given us light, bind up the festival offering. But he says binding could be go around the feastal offering to the horns of the altar. So go around the altar. So maybe there's an idea that we should go around with something that is a bind. What's the binding? The willow. He says not the willows, but your hadassim, the myrtle is a very thick branch kind of thing. And it reminds us of the word avot. It's called anaf eitz avot, a thick branch tree. So we go around with the thick branch tree. We go around with the lulav. That's a hint to this idea. So it's not the source of this, but maybe some hint to this idea of going around. Now, some only went around on the 7th day. Some people in modern times, about 1,000 years ago, there was a rabbi in Italy, Avram Harofe from Rome, and he says that the simple custom is that we don't go around on other days, only on the 7th day. So he only went, they say Hoshano after Musaf, just the way this Ashkenazim do, because this Italian rabbi is connected to the modern Ashkenazim. But they don't go around. I don't know. They would go around he does mention they would go around the table. Today we don't have an altar, so we have a table, and a table and an altar connected. So based on what we said before, that not everybody went around, only the Kohanim went around. So how do we all go around today? So the Taz, one of the commentators in the Shulchan Aruch and the Code of Jewish Law, says, look, we don't do it exactly the way they used to do it. If it was like the way they used to do it, only the Kohanim would go around. But today everybody goes around. According to the other rabbis, it makes sense. We all go around because they always used to go around. There's a special exception that you're allowed to go around the altar, even though it's a holy place on Sukkot. Now, who did when we talk about putting these willows against the altar, who did that? So the Rashi says, well, an Israelite can't do it. You're not allowed to go to that holy section. So the Kohanim are the ones who did it. But the Rambam says the word Adam. You see the word Adam over there? A person. Nobody can do it. Everyone has to. So he seems to be implying that in the Beis HaMikdash, everybody brought these willows. In other words, today, on the seventh day, tomorrow, we're going to take a willow. Is that because in the olden days, everybody used to take a willow? Or is it only the Kohanim who used to take it, and today we just do it to remember what was done, even though we're not Kohanim? So that's an interesting question. So what do you actually do with this willow? So he says, well, what's the measure? So he says 3 fresh leaves. Rav Sheshet says even 1 leaf. And it only needs to have one leaf on it. He says, 1 leaf? He says, well, even if 1 leaf on one branch is good enough. And there's a story that there was a fellow named Abu, and he was in front of Rabbi Lazar Reb Tzadok, a big rabbi in the early days, and somebody brought an arava. So he took it and he banged it, but he didn't make a bracha because he said it's just a custom of the prophets. So here we get to one of the sources. They claim it's a custom of the prophets to take a willow. Who able v'chizkiah b'nei Barate the Rav? I saw a Rav l'kamei Rav. They brought some of these guys brought an arava willow to Rav, great rabbi in the Talmud, and he also banged it, and he said it's a custom. He's not going to. It's an ancient custom from the time of the prophets, but it's a custom. So not making a bracha. You make a bracha when God commands you to do something, or it's an institution of the rabbis, like the lighting the menorah on Hanukkah, but you don't make a bracha on a custom of the prophets. Why don't we take we just said that every day they took the arava, the willow, so how come we only take a special willow on the 7th day? So again, every day there's a willow in our lulav, but we don't take a separate willow. Tomorrow, Hoshana Rabbah, we're going to take a separate willow. I have them here in my refrigerator. So he says, well, lulav, this like a lulav, which is supposed to be done anyway, everywhere on the first day. So to remember the temple, we do it 7 days. But the arava, which was only it only used to be in the temple, we only do it 1 day. Which Rashi explains, we do it 1 day. By the way, all these sources, I want to thank Rabbi Yehuda Zuldan of yeshiva.org for a wonderful article about this. So he mentions that Rav Shechter, who was one of my teachers, in the name of my other teacher and all of our teachers, Rabbi Joseph B. Salvation, quotes his grandfather, Reb Chaim Brisker, that he used to put the aravos on the side of the table where they read the Torah, because he wanted to make it just like the altar, right? They used to take these big branches and put them on the altar, next to the altar. We put them next to the table. We don't do this today, but Rabbi Salvation says that his grandfather did. Then after he put it next to the altar, then he would take it and he would bang it. The Ritva was a rabbi in Spain, student of the Ramban Nachmanides. He says, just like there were official emissaries of the temple who used to go get those willows. So today, Cantor Sandberg would very often go and try to collect willows from different places and bring them to everybody. The question is, do you have to pay for it? He says that the leaders of the community bring it, and everyone does not have to bring their own, and it's very nice. We usually charge $5, but anyway, in theory, you want to do it the way they used to do it, that the temple people brought it. Now, I want to show you something interesting about the Hoshanot. So we ask, what is the meaning of these Hoshanot? So So we mentioned that regarding the lulav itself, we mentioned during the holiday that why do we wave the lulav altogether? So it says you should wave the lulav and to rejoice for 7 days. It seems that when you shake a lulav, it's a joyous thing. Just sitting around with a bunch of branches, it's joyous. Why is it joyous? You tell me. Why do people go camping, or they like to go to the mountains, or they like to go to the? We've got somebody in the waiting room. I'm sorry. People like to go to the mountains, or hi Sherry. I'm sorry. Were you waiting for a long time? Sorry about that. People go to the mountains. They go to the greenway. They want to see nature. Well, what's the big deal? It's a bunch of leaves. So the answer is, it makes you happy to see nature. It makes you happy. So if we ask, why do we shake a lulav? We saw some of the sources on Monday that maybe it's just to make you happy. It's just a joy. We saw that Meiri mentioned it. What about this? So it could be the same thing. That this is all just derech simcha. You take the branches and you put them next to the altar and you wave them and you shake them and you take it and you wave it and you put it on the altar and you bang it on the altar. Some people say they did with lulav. It's just lots of fun. And if you have this many branches, it's a reflection of bounty. And, you must have if you have willows, probably you have palms, probably have the dates and other goodies. But let's look at some of the words that we use. It was written many, many centuries ago. They wrote these Hoshanos. And different prayers that we say as we go around. And I think they're clear. I don't want to swear to that. But they're very ancient Hoshanot. And we say these words. So what do we say? So some days we say that, why God should save us? For his own sake. We always say that. On the first day, we often say Laman Amitav for various qualities of God. God is great, he should save us. God is glorious, he should save us. On some days, we say he should save us for the sake of the altar. And we give different names of the altar. The Har Moriah, the Evan Shatia, the Lina Satzedek, all these different names. Navesh Sha'anan, one of our friends named his son Sha'anan because he had a bris during Sukkot. Sukkot Shalem. So we invoke the Beit HaMikdash, that God should save us for the sake of the concept of Beit HaMikdash. However, it's interesting. There's one day where we say, Om Ani Choma, God should save the nation that says they are a wall, that are as brilliant as the sun. It's the nation of Israel that sometimes is taken to slaughter like sheep. We're scattered among other people. We are stormy kind of people. We're holy sheep. So he should save us for the sake of the Jews. So there's an idea in Sukkot that God loves the Jews and God should save us for the sake of the Jews. Especially after Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we sort of have a right to say that because Jews have done so many mitzvot in the last month or so. But as we get to the 6th day, let's see. Today was the 6th day, and we said Adon HaMoshiach. You always say Adon HaMoshiach on the 6th day. And the 6th day, Rabbi Kiva noticed that there's an extra letter which reminds us of water. One of the letters of the word Mayim for water is found on the 6th day. And therefore, the 6th day might be a special day when you should start asking for rain. Some suggest that maybe on the 6th day, you would start saying Mashiv Ruach. You mentioned in your Shmon Esrei, in your prayers, that God brings the rain. So if you look here in the art scroll, Nusach Sard Siddur, on page 774, you have Adon HaMoshiach. So God should save us. After all, he's the Savior. And those who called him should be saved. And then we say, Yavul Hashpia, that the crops, you should have an influence on them. Kol Siach, that Shevet Toshia, all the vegetation should come forth. He says, Megadim Tamtiku Yoshia, the tasty things, you should save them. Nisi'im Lasiya, let the wind bring the storing clouds. Sirim La'aniya, the rains be emplaced. Ananim Milahamniya, let the clouds not be withheld. Finally, on the 6th day, we give away some of the secrets. And what are we really praying for? Why do we shake the lulav? a lulav and an esrog and a rava, and the willow particularly, which is arvei nachal. It's a willow of the river, of the brook. How do you have a brook in Israel? You got to have rain. Otherwise, everything dries up. All the riverbeds in Israel, they dry up until the rain. And the rainy season is coming. We don't want it to rain on Sukkot, as I've pointed out in a number of videos. We don't want it to rain on Sukkot, because then we won't be able to go in our Sukkah. But we do want to allude to the coming rainy season. We want it to be successful. By taking the willow, or maybe the lulav, it's an allusion to our crops and our bounty. On the sixth day, we dare say those words, that you should prevent the clouds from stopping their rain. We don't actually say give rain, but we say let the clouds not be withheld. And then as we reach Hoshana Rabbah, the great day of Hoshana, where we ask God to save us a lot of times, it becomes a pretty naked request. It's pretty clear what we're asking for. So, we ask God to save us as he saved us other times, and we praises of God, and all kinds of things. We've gone through a lot of things, and you should save us because of Avram, etc., etc. But then we start talking about water. For the sake of the one who is so pure, he says, for the Holy One, the one who is tested 10 times, and he said, let me take some water. Abraham said, let's take some water and give it to you since you're a guest. We start talking about water. Isaac, he found water in the wells. He was an expert at finding wells. Jacob, he had that special trick in the trough of the water trough where he played with the animals and their breeding system. Moses, where Aaron and Moshe, they were dealing with the water, and they gave the water from the rock, and etc. So we go through all the forefathers and their connection to water, and because of them, God should give us water. Gideon and Miriam and Samson and Samuel and David and Elijah, all connections with water. So it's on this day that we suddenly we're not hiding it anymore. We want water. And in fact, one of the rabbis in the Talmud thought that you should start asking for rain on Hoshana Rabbah, not on the sixth day, but on the seventh day. And again, the tribes had water, Israelites and Jacob, another prayer about water. So there's on the seventh day, we really begin to clarify when we say we want hatzlacha, we want success, we want to be saved. What are we talking about? What's the problem? The Hoshana Rabbah was designed when the Jews are living in Israel. They had a temple. They're in the holy temple. It's great. Everything's great. What do they need to be saved from? The answer is that the rain has to come. As soon as Sukkot is over, give it a couple of weeks for the travelers to go back, they've got to have some rain. And Sukkot is an allusion to rain because, as the rabbis say, all the species of the four species, they grow on water. So if not for water, we wouldn't have these species. So we're alluding to the rain throughout the week. And Hoshana Rabbah, we ask God very strongly, save us, save us, save us. And what we're saying is, when this season is over, this harvest season, now we're getting ready for the next year. We've got to have that rain. So please don't prevent us from having the rain. And then the eighth day, we actually say Mashiv Ruach, and we actually mention the fact that God gives rain. And we're also, strangely enough, the prayers that we say also say, Bavu al Timlamayim. We ask God, not to stop the rain because we need that rain so badly. So it's on the eighth day we get even more explicit about our request for rain. No question about it. We say, Bavu al Timlamayim, for the sake of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, don't prevent us from having rain. So again, we don't say give us rain, but we say don't prevent us from having rain. We don't want rain. We don't want rain yet, but we're alluding to it. We're praising God about rain. Mashiv Ruach Amrita Geshem. We'll start saying that on Shmini Atzeres, and then depending whether you live in Israel, outside of Israel, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, Provence, different customs. Shortly after Sukkot, we start asking for rain, and because Sukkot, as we explained in the video about, is Sukkot a holiday of rain? Sukkot in some ways is about rain. So those Shanos are asking God to save us, but we don't want to say in what sense until we get to the sixth day. We mentioned it a little bit. On the seventh day, we were very explicit. We need that rain. And all these ceremonies are made to bring great joy, but also to pray to God that the next season be a very rainy kind of a season. So that's some of our discussions about the Hoshanot. But a very interesting practice is also to bang the Hoshanot. And again, it could be just for Simcha. Many explanations about it. Why would you want to bang the willows? So some say, well, the willow is the most sinful of the Jews. The four species represent different types of Jews. Some who have Torah, some who have mitzvot, some who have Torah and mitzvot, some who have just Torah, just mitzvot, and some who have nothing. The willow represents those who have nothing, and we put them all together. We say, well, everyone's part of the Jewish people. We love them all. We're connected to all Jews. But on the last day, we take that willow, which is a Jew that's not doing so great as far as Torah and mitzvot, and we bang it on the ground as if to perhaps have some atonement. Or perhaps it represents the mouth. We want to atone for the mouth as well. Rabbi Palkovitz, of my blessed memory, my rabbi in New York, he quoted the Bnei Yissaschar, I think it was. I can't find it inside, but he said that we bang the willow because throughout the Yontif we were sort of deifying the lulav and esrog. Sort of, in some ways, some rabbis say that it kind of represents God, the four letters of God's name, the four species. And we loved it. We were so excited about the mitzvah, a very tangible mitzvah, one of the most tangible mitzvahs we have. You sort of pray with this lulav and esrog. So on the seventh day, we say, well, as Jews, we don't worship anything other than God himself, who's abstract. And this willow, we're going to bang it on the ground to show there's no holiness in this lulav. After Yontif, we put it in a bag, we throw it away. There's no holiness here. The name of God is not written on this ritual, and therefore, unlike tefillin, which you have to bury, Torah, but a lulav you can actually respectfully throw away. Some have a custom to throw it on top of the shul, on top of the Aron Kodesh, or people put it in different places. They'll use it to burn their chametz. You try to use it for something. You can make a place mark in a book or something. You could think of something, but fundamentally, we're done with the mitzvah, and therefore we can bang it on the ground. So many interesting interpretations, but I like the idea that it's atonement for the mouth. It's atonement for us if we're sometimes Jews who lack Torah, who don't learn enough Torah, even if supposedly a big rabbi or whatever. But all of us could learn more Torah. Maybe we don't do the mitzvahs properly. We don't do enough mitzvahs. We beat it and we try to atone. So there's an element of atonement on Hoshana Rabbah as well. They say you should have a good kvittel, that the last little note that about us could be written on this day. Although we were sealed on Yom Kippur, maybe we weren't fully sealed, and we had the last kvittel comes today. So we hope that indeed, with all the prayers that we make on Hoshana Rabbah, that God should seal us for an absolutely great year with rain and all hatzlacha in all areas. So that's our presentation for today on the meaning of Hoshanot. Just wanted to show you one video about it. Watch this. This one. So those are some examples of some extreme willow beating. My grandmother used to spend hours, I don't know, it seemed like hours, maybe it was just minutes, but she would spend a lot of time beating the Hoshanos, and it was somehow very cathartic for her to beat the Hoshanos, and it was somehow a prayer and letting out all of her frustrations in her difficult life by beating the Hoshanos. So some kids like to beat off all the leaves. There's no concept that you need to do that, but some kids have fun doing that. And again, I think it's fine. It's part of the experience of having some fun. Of course, somebody has to clean it up, and so if you have help to clean it up, it's one thing, but you have to be mindful of those who have to clean it as well. But it's one of our more messy holidays, and in Yiddish, it's called clapping Hoshanos. We bang and beat the Hoshanos. The willows, we call them Hoshanos. So it can be a really fun thing. And that was an example of someone who found some really large willow branches, maybe similar to the old temple willow branches, and he beat them. Today we just take 5 of them and we beat them. And they say you should beat them either 3 times or 5 times. Some do it on a vessel, like on a piece of furniture. Some do it on the ground. And either way is fine. So in that event, that concludes our class for today. And then later we'll take some questions afterwards. Thank you very much for joining us today.